Hello, I am Rezik and this is part 2 of how to build and play your Polish deck in AirLand Battle Wargame or otherwise. What happened actually, the first video ended so abruptly. I actually ran out of the disk space to record. It took like 150 gigs, which I didn't expect the video would take so long, and I actually spent it like talking 10 minutes more after the recording ended before I realized I'm not recorded, so sorry for this. I believe we will now finish this video in this one part. Sorry for the huge run, but I think the value is the deep understanding of the value of any commentary is the setting your goals and the deep understanding of the fundamentals on which you build. Like, it's not like I pick this and this is my choice. I pick this because of those reasons that I have to lay before you, because otherwise you just, you know, picking based on, I don't know, on looks. You have to be smart about your games, because being smart is cool, being smart is sexy. So to finish my argument, which I found on the last video, without hitting the end, let's go deck, let's go Poland. You see those units I've picked after I've been talking. Okay, so the Jeep. We are talking about a tank. The tank, we are comparing tank 55L to tank 55AM. The final argument was that this tank, you get 10% more accuracy and a marginal amount of armor more, which is 2 points, which is percently based on percentage, quite a few more, but given, let's say, the average penetration of a tank at 11, having armor of 9 or 10 still make you take damage, right? And a quite significant damage that causes malfunctions. So it's the armor we can ignore here. So with this tank you pay 75% more to get 10% more accuracy, right? So you can see the trade-off here is obvious. This tank is a clear winner. It's the worst tank from the datasheet point of view, but with the cost function included, this is a clear winner. Okay, but let's let out of the tank. Let's go back to the basics, and this time I promised and I believe I'll be able to go from the top to the bottom explaining why the units are best for a specific function to include in our Polish deck. So let's begin. Okay, so the argument between those two, the unarmored vehicle and this armored vehicle, was that this Jeep is situational, stationary, for safe zone capturing, and this one is for fast armored one. And I could pick specialized units for special scenarios, but you never know when the special scenario will apply, because if it's happening you will have the advantage, but at every other point of time when the specialized scenario isn't happening, you're at a disadvantage. In this point, disadvantage is that you're applying at your tool slot, your unit slot, and your activation point spending for a unit that you potentially won't use. That's why I'm not gonna, besides how many points you will capture, how many points there will be no fighting over, like 1, maybe 2, you don't need 6 Jeeps for this. That's why I generally go for assault armored command vehicle, which is Scott, which I get free. I'm getting 6 of them because 3 is not a lot, because when you lose one you really need more to pull up, because if you're out of command vehicles you're running deep trouble. So that's why I go for uniform Scott vehicle. I'm ignoring these topaz as spoken before today, because it's slower, it's got weapons, no, and the deck is pretty crappy. Now then, supplies are bloody important. Supplies, well, if you got a lot of expensive units and you really are watching them to stay alive, you're micromanaging, they're gonna run out of fuel, ammo, and you want to resupply them. But in case of cheaper units like Polish army, they are disposable. You know, they pretty much will die before they run out of gas or ammo. So you could theoretically ignore the supply altogether. But, and this is one of the few exceptions I make to my flexible and not the specialized army, is that when you make a big push, and you get good with it, because that's the point of game, far into the enemy lines, you will probably run out of gas or ammo. Like you are right of many tanks, right? And you will run to supply them. And what happens with supply? We've got three options. We've got Star, the supply truck, 750 liters, supply chopper, and a FUB. The FUB, I dislike really in this game. The FUB is good for artillery, like when the artillery has a very limited ammo capacity, so after a few cycles they are dry, they need to resupply, so keeping them close to FUB, which is the biggest bang for the buck as credits to supply function goes, but this is immobile, so you cannot really resupply any mobile combat unit, because if I am in the front lines with my tanks and they start running low on ammo, to resupply them with a FUB I would have to go back to base, wait to resupply, and then go back to front line. It takes time, and time is money, my friend. So it's a big no-no. The only reason to go for FUB is to rock a rocket artillery, a normal artillery, or maybe you can fly a chopper there because they are so mobile. But this is for me a very situational thing, and at the start of the game, when you don't know what the units enemy will pull at you, making a FUB investment, because you cannot place FUB in game, you have to declare them before the battle starts. So it costs quite a few money. It's like 5 tanks, for example, 5 T-55s. So it's a frozen investment that you cannot change, and for this reason I want to be flexible. I want to have I don't want to spend anything. I want to have the budget that I can spend on units to adapt to what my enemy is doing, because you never know, maybe it's a chopper enemy, he's trying something funky, or a strong tank push. I need to be able to adapt. I cannot spend everything for a perfectly balanced, flexible army that could potentially lose, because worries about having an advantage over the enemy in every cheap possible way. So why not? You have to be able to adapt. See Sun Tzu's philosophy. So I don't like FOBs, and we're not gonna be using too much artillery, but more on this further. So that leaves us with a truck and with a chopper. Now, quick math. Okay, so for 15 credits you get 750 liters, and for 50 credits you get 2000, which makes a star like 3 times 15 is 45, which gives for 45 credits we get 2250 liters, right? With 5 credits overhead over the chopper. So the supply truck is about 15% more credit effective to full capacity. Full capacity is used for repairs, ammo resupply, and fuel refuel, right? So it's 50% more bang for the buck, but the speed is 90 off-road, 150 on-road. The chopper is 250 everywhere. You got a chopper, you want to go from point A to B, you fly there. You've got a truck, you have to pick a road. For the fast on-road movement, you have to pick off-road. Obviously the chopper can be shot down, but because it's a resupply, you're basically kind of making that he flies in a secure location, and it costs only 50. It means that if the enemy is super active and he sends his Flying Falcon, Hornet, one of those expensive flying jets at you to shoot you down later, you lose it, and it's not a big deal. It's a 50 credits, so you can really go it down. And when he maybe shoot your supply helicopter, but you've got your anti-air missiles, you shot his airplane, and he spent like 170 credits to shoot down your 50 credit helicopter. It's a good trade-off. I could make those trade-offs all the day. And another amazing thing about the chopper is you get 6 per slot, which means I can have 12 of them. This is more than enough. I think even 1 slot of them is good enough to make a good supply, because we're not heavy on supplies. Like we use a lot of units that will most likely die before they run dry. So, but I'm gonna get 12 just for the time being. So I've got those assault units and those choppers, and I'm pretty good. It's amazing. And the last unit I haven't talked about is the command chopper. It is another amazing unit. You can spot them on many different factions, not all of them, but some of them, and when you get them, man or women. It's only 100. It's the price, the same price of the author of the Jeep, and it has no armor. So guys, wow, this one rises or flies. What's the difference? I would take those. Obviously, you get only 2 per slot of the choppers instead of 6 per Jeep. But the point with choppers, non-combat choppers like this one or the supply, the MI8 Zaop, which is zaopatrzenie, which is supply, which is MI8 supply chopper, by the way. So when you got przetacznik, you don't try to pronounce or translate it, it's just a word, so what is amazing about the chopper, they are very situational, but and I'm, as I told you, against situational things, but I'm more around scenarios, adaptable strategy or tactic rater, because the game is more about tactics than strategy, if you're talking about semantics. But the initial start of the game, the most maps have those crucial capture zones, right? When you capture a zone, you get credits. It's okay, but it's not that super important. But some zones are possible to call reinforcements from, and they are the most important places of the map to be and to hold on, because when you capture a reinforcement zone, your supply chain is dramatically shorter. And with this helicopter, if there's like map with one in the middle that as a center fighting point, you can have a few choppers of infantry, few fighting choppers, one command chopper. You can just from the very start of the game fly there, capture it, call a lot of units and do it before the enemy does, and gain a huge advantage in the first minute of the game. This is a very specialized role, but very important one that really pays to have this chopper in your deck, and you can use it offensively. If there is a map with 2 reinforcements points symmetrically, right, one for one player, second for second player, as on the Swedish highway map, you can actually, when the guy is just going cheap and flying there with him Jeep with 70 kilometers per hour off-road performance, you can fly there, be there, because you're flying over 3 times as fast as the guy drives. So if he covers an X amount of terrain, you will cover 3X amount of terrain in the same time. So you can get there first on his natural expansion, using StarCraft terms, capture his natural expansion zone, call reinforcements, and basically win the game, or at least gain a huge advantage from the start by just being faster. Because you call out of units, you settle down your chopper, click 20 infantry squads to come on, take your chopper off, fly back, and now you have on the enemy's portion of the map a huge force that he has to worry about, and it lets you capture the rest of the map pretty unchallenged. This is an amazing situational tool, one of the very few that I advise you to use on every faction that has the tool to make it. This is a really great thing. Okay, we've done logistics. Well, we're actually moving on after those 30-40 minutes of run, but it's really getting faster now. Infantry. Well, infantry, it's a huge topic. There's so many units, I could really spend a lot of time talking about it, but I'm gonna be fast. Okay, so we spadochroniarze, which is paratroopers. I believe I've mentioned it before, or was it the run they didn't record? It's basically paratroopers, right? And they've got the normal track, the Scott, which is okay, my favorite Polish unit, in different variants, which is low range heavy machine gun, long range heavy machine gun, and the addition of rockets, right? And then we've got a chopper, and we've got the basic. This one only got rockets, and it got autonomy of 400 kilometers, not so good. MI8 and MI24D, it's got a lot of weaponry, but also the higher price tag, and it's pretty fast. It's a very good assault chopper. It's one of the older Russian designs. So the unit itself, spadochroniarze, paratroopers, is, if you look, there's 10 of them. The cost is okay, so you could pay like many they cost 15 credits. Often you can find those units for 10. They've got LPGs, AKs and RPK. Nothing too specific. What is actually good about those units in infantry, this is the strongest card in Poland. You really have to pay a lot of attention to infantry units in Poland. I would like to say, for example, if you play East Germany, they have so few infantry units that you will be hindered. You will think, oh, I'm so weak on infantry, I have so few units to choose from. The little variety I have to overcompensate in other departments. In Poland, you've got pretty much, you're covered in every area with some mid-range but bang for the buck units. But infantry, this is your main focus, in my opinion, on Polish. You have to spend the most theory crafting on this tab, and let's go with it. I'm gonna skip some fun things because there's a lot about just to show you the results. Okay, so the cool units I would say is you have to, I have to pay 3 rolls for your infantry. You have to have infantry for static defense, like you secure an area and you want to, deposit infantry there in some town, on forest, just to watch over the area and make sure no sneaky attacks are coming or no easy recapture is done, right? Then you want, this is defensive troops, then you want assault troops, and they come in different forms and shapes. And I use 2, one general and one specialized. One are the airlifted, as the game calls them, which is basically transported by air, by choppers, choppers. Okay, to that chopper. Because when there is a critical position, but in an enemy defense, but it's behind enemy lines, getting there conventionally, like by the ground, means there's a lot of dangers that could await you, like hidden infantry, or it will be very long, right? An enemy could spot them. So using a chopper with infantry to get to a critical point, or as I just told recently in the logistics section, having a chopper transport infantry somewhere very rapidly in order to capture something before the enemy does, can be, and in fact is, very crucial, especially at the start of the game or for terrain when seeking a weak spot in the enemy defense line. So having a specialized infantry for this matter is very important, and for this purpose, while I love my Scott 2AM, it's not the only Polish squad that can use it. Say Piechota Zmechanizowana, which is mechanized infantry basically, right? Mechanized infantry can use them too, and it goes for a lot of units, so it's not an exclusive unit, exclusive transport for this infantry, so not really. The paratroopers are going to guess they are to be air assault units, so I'm gonna go with it, and they are okay on the cost, and the chopper pretty much, there are 2 choppers. I'm gonna make them my fast response assault unit specialist, one of the few I use. And obviously this and this chopper are pretty different, pretty much different. What I actually like to do, so you have to pick between those 2. I think that having more units is better than having few units. Let's say I could get this chopper. It's amazing. It's got minigun right on the nose. It's got a individual rocket, the normal rockets. This is amazing chopper. This one is bare bones basically. It's even much slower. But if you are faced with anti-air rockets, pretty much for the chopper 1 rocket is death. If it's an expensive chopper, it's a death. If it's a inexpensive chopper, it's a death. So and the rockets, for example, like here on support part, QB, see, for example, there are 3 rockets, right, with only 5 per minute. So when a guy uses this kind of rocket to shoot my helicopter, I would pretty much prefer for him to shoot my one of many inexpensive choppers instead of one of very few expensive ones. Even though it has a greater fighting capability, I don't think I'm not gonna use them for engaging in a direct conflict. Those paratroopers are to get somewhere possibly unnoticed and as fast as possible. So all these weapons could go to waste, as if there is an overwhelming defense, I'm not gonna fly there and land to unload the infantry anyway. So for those reasons, that many choppers, cheap choppers, because they can die rapidly to any unknown anti-air missiles, or even jets, right? The jet they can call a jet and shoot this pretty pricey unit, 75 for to transport infantry, not really, and only 4 anti-vehicle missile. So for this reason I'm gonna go with these guys. And now when you are on picking what level of the infantry you want, for other units it's not as important. Well, the veterancy level affects many stats. It is basically a modifier to most of your stats. Most importantly, accuracy for tanks. But for infantry, what also is very important is the morale. When they are bombed or shelled intensively, they tend to panic. And when they panic, they don't do. They just stand there and do nothing and die. And the higher the veterancy level, the higher the morale. And the higher the morale, they are the more resistant to suppressing fire and to fight back. Which is crucial, because a tank won't only shoot, the tank won't panic. Well, they will, but very rarely. Tank will panic, they will always return fire. Infantry won't. They get, with the suppressed infantry, they are basically there to die, they won't do anything, they won't respond to your orders to get out of trouble. So for me, you should always go for the highest possible level, because it is very important, and which means that you can get few units. And as I told before, having few units is very bad idea, especially on the infantry heavy Polish side. That's why I get a lot of them. I'm gonna utilize all of those bars. There is 9 bars if you count them, which if I'm gonna use only 3, say kinds of infantry, I'm gonna have 3 times per 3 kinds for a 9 total. So I'm gonna get 8, 16, 24 of those guys. 24 is a pretty decent number to have in reserve, so I've got a lot of those guys, and they are pretty cheap, so I will use a lot of them. I won't be afraid. And what is amazing about choppers, that if I get even 1 chopper, it really forces the opposite player to have anti-air countermeasures. So even if I pull only 1, and he's heavy on tanks and infantry and whatnot, he cannot do anything. So I can force him, hey, I just spent 35 on these paratroopers. You have to pull 70 or 60 on a bloody rocket launcher just to counter. When you counter this chopper, then it's useless. So it's not only I get a chopper with rockets, infantry squad, but I also make my opponent spend his precious resources on a counter that will be otherwise useless to him. Amazing situation. Always, when even the situation doesn't demand and you fly somewhere fast, always get 1 to make the enemy, oh no, I need those expensive and otherwise useless anti-air counter units. This is a bloody good deal. Go for it, at least 1 at the start of every game, just to spoil the enemy. Okay, then the second unit is Saperzy Szturmowi, which is basically combat engineers. And what is unique about Polish, there is 2 kind of engineers actually. You've got to, I'm gonna add them so you can compare them easily. Combat engineers, sappers are from French, right? From the period when the French was dominating the European culture before the English-speaking one took over. So we do have 2 kinds, which is I think unique for all the factions to have 2 kinds of combat engineers. And okay, I think you can see and compare them. There's 10 of them, and they have a 350 range napalm, and there's 5 of them here. They cost the same with 500 range. So let's talk about this. Basically, engineers are a situational unit, which is from the start a big no-no. These ones with the normal guns, they are nothing specific. They have anti-vehicle rockets, so they are only anti-infantry good. And this is only an anti-infantry unit, and the special weapon, and they don't have a heavy machine gun. So if you were to send them off in an open combat, in an open field against a normal unit that has a heavy machine gun, they would bloody lose. So the bonus of them is that they have this flamethrower, and the flamethrower has a 30 range and is useful in two situations. Forest. The range view in forest, I believe, is exactly 300 meters or 350. So if you hide him in a forest and there is infantry or any kind of light vehicle coming, they will bloody obliterate it with the flamethrowers, because flamethrowers have a huge panic effect and they can really stop a huge wave of infantry, enemy infantry, because it's area based and it will cause panic. So this is good for defending a forest against infantry or light vehicles, or maybe hiding in a dense big city when enemy infantry comes into a adjacent building, and then they somehow get in the range. But as you see, it's very situational, and situational is a big no-no. So I'm gonna skip them. Then the normal engineers. There's only 5 of them, but they have a higher range. You see, 525 meters is the normal range of most guns, and it's a pretty good round. So if you were combat them in open field with a normal unit which is a heavy machine gun, and they would get onto the normal fire range, those rockets would really, and you get 10 per minute, which is 1 every 6 seconds, they would really wreak a havoc. But there's only 5 of them, which means they will die half as fast and have half the firepower of a normal gun. And for this reason, having a specialized unit that won't really be a hard counter to infantry and no counter to anything else is a no-no. So for me, this unit is takeoff. And you know, the choppers for them, you can always have a pretty crappy unit and look for what the transport they use, because if you just have want to transport, you can use some cheap infantry, or for many factions it is that there is some exclusive transport just for this one type of infantry, but it's not the case for those engineers. So we're just gonna skip them. Then we've got light infantry, lekka piechota. Light infantry, we've got strength 5 AKs and 1600 rocket heat guided rockets. 5 guys, which means they won't fight an infantry and win. And rockets, those 80 JM launchers, which are from NATO, this is a low range. I mean, my 20 back tanks have a range of 1900. This anti-tank rocket has a range of 1600. Obviously they are hiding in forest or in a building, so they will wait for the tank to come close. But this is a specialized unit that cannot fight infantry, that cannot fight airplanes, that will only work against vehicles and only when ambushing, which means you have to play statically, wait with them, right? And you don't win a war but staying still in place, being well prepared. You have to bloody attack to conquer and defeat the enemy. So it's a specialized unit and a pretty weak one, so not really. And for the first time, I think we see that the selection of the second transport vehicle, we're gonna see them. This is the scar we've been discussing before. This is the Topaz, Kraków, that one of the Polish major city based on a monarch from Middle Ages, and Promet. Okay, so let's see, maybe those transport vehicles are worthwhile for picking them. Topaz, well, we've seen this one. It's the water crossing vehicle that is pretty slow but armored. No, this one got a recoilless gun of sorts with pretty average game and very low ammo capacity. Then we got a higher range heavy machine gun on top, which makes for some very hideous equipment and a snorkeling. Then we've got Krak, and this actually got a pretty good range. Let's say you're riding and you see some infantry hiding in a town, and you could really shoot at them out of their range. But really, you want to assault cities like that, and it's nothing really that catches my attention, because they could really outrange infantry, but you know, everything else will outrange, or if not outrange, outgun it. So you won't really get to shoot it, like one point of armor. And then we've got a Promet, which is, well, pretty pretty hilarious looking, to be honest, design. And we've got those chain guns, very high rate of fire, 400 per minute. And they are, you can see they are two guns, and they can shoot helicopters and planes. You can say, oh, it's a air deterrent troop transport. Well, the price goes up. I don't really like it, to be honest, because jets, you won't really, the fast flying like 900,000 kilometers per hour ones, you won't really make a dent in them with those. You would really have to have a huge battery of those vehicles. Helicopters is 100-400 meters, and helicopters will shoot you with rockets before you get in range, or the heat-seeking rockets, or with the normal unguided rockets. So you have to, in the open field, you're gonna take up plenty of casualties. So it's more really, it's more of a really hide and wait for an enemy to come vehicle. Pretty expensive, specialized. Not nothing that would, you know, take your heart. You could use it, you could utilize it, but it's a specialized, right? And even if you were to defend from the air assault, it doesn't really provide a super upper hand. It's just okay-ish. Then we go. Let's leave this unit be. Then we go for the blue berets. Niebieskie berety. Blue berets. That's a formation in Polish army. Was basically, I believe. Now we've got, American got green berets. We've got blue. French got, you know, pick your color. And these guys are pretty good. I love them, actually. There's 15 of them. That's, you know, remember, the more guys you have, the bigger firepower, because every one of them have a rifle, which is 50% more firepower, right, over the 10-man squad. They live longer because there's more of them, so it takes longer to kill them off. And they've got the, you know, standard AK variant. The accuracy is okay,